So the big question is for Professor Jeffrey Sachs now. Is it possible? Or are we stuck in the impossible? All right? We wanted very much for you to be in Egypt with us, but unfortunately you're not.
No, I'm here.
You are here, yeah. Now we wanted you physically and to offer you also hibiscus drink after your meal. You would have enjoyed it very much. All right, please. The order was originally that you come first and then His Excellency Lovin, but now the order is reversed. You heard him. He's reading of the situation of things that need to do. The US is at the heart of everything that's happening in the world, okay? In 2025 specifically, but also before that. So we're very, very eager to hear your reading of the whole thing. Please, Jeffrey Sachs, Professor Jeffrey Sachs.
Greetings, friends. I'll be in Cairo shortly, but I couldn't quite time to be together with you. But let me. And also Olaf Palme, people that changed the world, and Prime Minister Lovin is in that category. I subscribe to all that he said and know that Sweden was in very good hands during the 7 years of his prime ministership when there were two principles that guided Sweden: social democracy and common security. In those days, Sweden was a neutral country, even safer as a neutral country than as a NATO country, I would argue. NATO is not common security, it is alliance power politics. And it is the expansion of NATO to Russia's border that provoked the wars that we're in right now. So the idea of common security and the revival of the idea of neutrality, I think, is an extremely important proposition for the world. And Sweden would show the way for many decades of that proposition. But let me say, I would like to mention four themes. First, Egypt, as the whole rest of the world, must make the transformation to a green energy system and a digital-based economy. I've been in China in recent days. It's happening dramatically fast. The promise and power of the new technologies is astounding. The price of solar energy has plummeted to 8 cents a watt for solar capacity. And Egypt has many great gifts. Among those great gifts are sunshine. You have so much solar potential. You could power Europe with your solar power. All we need is a cable and a lot of solar modules, and you would be the powerhouse for Europe. And I want to emphasize how important it is for Egypt to plan its green and digital transformation, and especially in the context of Egypt's large population of 120 million people that will grow to perhaps 160 million people by mid-century. Training the young people, quality education is the #1 investment to make. The second is solar modules. And the third is a cable to carry that power not only to Egypt's cities and villages, but also to Europe, because this is the way that we really will transform the energy system. If you have ever sat in Berlin, or I may say Stockholm, for many months of the year, it's not going to be solar power that's going to, it's not going to be sunshine in Germany or in Sweden that will be the key. to a sustainable energy system, but it could be sunshine in Egypt. So I want to emphasize that a planned transformation with the skills, the education, and the infrastructure for a green and digital development process is at the core of what every country needs, but very much what Egypt has in its great potential in the coming 25 years. Second point, we are in a multipolar world. This is good. We are not in a US-led world. We're not in a US-dominated world. This is good. We don't want one country dominating anything. And if there is a lesson of the meeting last week of President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump, it is that the United States is coming to understand it cannot prevail in a trade war with China or a hot war with China. And there are glimmers of some sense arriving in Washington. By the way, that's saying a lot, but there are glimmers of rationality that are starting to show through. And in the meeting of President Xi and President Trump, the United States backed down, started to de-escalate from its trade war that it launched actually 10 years ago under Donald Trump's, almost 10 years ago in his first term, but that Trump escalated at the beginning of his second term. The key for a multipolar world is what Prime Minister Lovin said. It is common security. The big powers need to stay out of each other's faces. We cannot have NATO expansion to Ukraine because that will provoke war with Russia. We cannot have the United States meddling in the China-Taiwan issue because that will provoke war. We cannot have China or Russia setting up military bases in Mexico or Canada because that will provoke war. So multipolarity means responsibility of the major powers to stay out of each other's way so we don't have conflict. It also requires that the major powers treat the smaller states in their neighborhood with respect. But that can happen if we honor neutrality, if we do not press one great power, the United States, up against the nose of another great power, whether Russia or China, then we can have true multipolarity. We need two things for a multipolar world: common security, which means accepting shared, indivisible security, not security of Ukraine at the expense of Russia, but mutual security. That would have been achieved with Ukraine's neutrality, and Sweden pointed the way, but the United States did not accept that approach, and here we are at war. We need to return to common security. We need to return to multilateralism under the UN Charter as the second means for a multipolar world to survive. The third point that I want to emphasize is that we are in an age of regional integration. No country can succeed without the cooperation of its neighbors. Actually, Ukraine cannot succeed without being in trade and in transport and in interconnection with Russia, for example. There are no walls that are going to work, actually. Neighbors need to get along. Regions need to integrate. It is time for a true Arab region to work. It is, I think it's right to say, especially in retrospect, Nasser was right. He was ahead of his time. The United States would not accept Arab unity because it was seen as a threat to the US Cold War, and it was knocked down. But the idea that there should be unity in the Arab world is absolutely correct, but not only political unity, infrastructure integration. transport, power sector, digital connectivity, and a common approach to the common ecological challenges. So the first point I want to make is that the Arab League and the Arab region is an economic unit that is extremely important. A second related point, we need a real peace plan for Gaza, not Trump's whatever you want to call it. That's no peace plan. A peace plan for Gaza means a state of Palestine on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967. We need the leaders of the region. That means Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and others to explain to Mr. Trump clearly there is no peace plan other than a state of Palestine living alongside a state of Israel on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because that is international law. That is how to deal with the fact that there are 8 million Palestinian Arabs and 8 million Israeli Jews, and they need to divide the territory into 2 states so that they can live side by side. The United States still doesn't get it. It still doesn't accept it. It wants to shove the so-called Abraham Accords down the throat of other countries. There will never be peace until there is a state of Palestine. And a state of Palestine should be the first order of business now. The first order of business, not the end of the process. And Israel has no veto on a state of Palestine. This is a matter of international law, not a matter of the choice of Israel, which will never accept it. It has to be put in place by the world community. Later, they'll accept the next generation, but today, it is the world community implementing international law. Without that, your region is going to remain in deep trouble. That's the hard fact. And what Trump has put on the table is not a peace plan. It is a dodge against a peace plan because it continues the fiction in Washington that you can avoid a state of Palestine. Please, let's tell the truth so that you can have peace in the region. The third point is that once there is peace, we can have a real strategy for the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East in economic development and in infrastructure. We can have Egypt, the Middle East, Europe integrated into an energy grid. And I'm not talking about the Mediterranean natural gas. We don't need that even. We need your sunshine deployed in solar power. We need a safe, green, zero-emission energy system. Egypt can be at the heart of it, but only as part of an integrated grid that includes Europe, the Eastern Mediterranean, North Africa, the Middle East. Why not? It's not such a large distance. It's a matter of power transmission. It's a matter of political cooperation. And the financing would not be hard in the context of peace, a two-state solution, and a geopolitical approach to the greening of the economies of Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, the Eastern Mediterranean. Fourth is that in regional integration, African union is also crucial. Egypt's everywhere. It's part of North Africa. It's part of the Arab region. It's part of the Eastern Mediterranean. It integrates with Europe, but it is also part of Africa's union. And by the way, Egypt's centrality is obvious because Egypt is the very core of Western civilization in history and in geography. And so you're also key to a successful Africa, and that can only come about by a strong and integrated African Union. I want to make one final point, and that is about development cooperation. My country, the United States, is in a neurotic crisis. It doesn't know what to do. It's divided. It is confused. It has eliminated development aid. It doesn't know whether to have war or peace. It's very confused. It's not going to get better for quite a while. But what is true is that there is a great and serious effort at sustainable development taking place all over the world. And perhaps the most bold and ambitious of the initiatives for sustainable development is the BRICS, because the BRICS includes half the world population and nearly half the world GDP. It's far larger than the G7. It's far more dynamic. It's growing faster, and Egypt is a core member. Do not wait for the United States. Move forward. Partner with China. Partner with the rest of the BRICS nations. Coordinate together, because the world of the future is going to be made by today's emerging and developing economies. They're not held back by their old neuroses. They're not held back by their dreams, delusions of hegemony. They want to move forward in success for the citizens. So Egypt, I know, will be in the forefront of that movement, and it will be cooperation among the major emerging economies, of which Egypt is a key world leader, that will make the difference for the future. So thank you very, very much. I'll be in Cairo shortly, and I look forward to seeing many of you, I hope, in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sachs, for an excellent speech and for your key messages. And let me repeat some of them, because some of them actually, most of them, all of them, touch our heart very much, but particularly one, that there is a need for a peace of plan for Gaza. There is a need for state of Palestine with the borders of 1967, that without peace, there will never be stability in this region, and Palestine has to come first, not at the end of the process. Thank you for these positions. We can try and push Trump, but hopefully you can push him as well. You can push him as well. He's not easily pushable. Okay. Then, of course, your focus on common security, regional integration, Arab cooperation, very, very critical for us, and also the African Union and the BRICS. The rest of our sessions are going to address all of these issues in details, each one of them. We would have very much liked that you continue with us. So whenever you have a chance to enter and Zoom with us, I would appreciate it very, very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. And a big hand for Professor Sachs, please.
Thank you.